Lays and Rumbleweeds. Do you remember those? They're very, very talented musicians, you know. Anyway, where were we? So, yes, I've not done one of these for a bit. Restringing a bit of the setup because we've got that Harley Benton, and I could tell immediately that the string height was not at an optimum level. Plus also it's fitted with 10 to 46 gauge strings, and really we'd like 9 to 42, so we will change those. Kills me because the strings are new, but you know, what can one do? So what I did want to talk to you about as well was things that I use these days, because of course it's all changed. Now, neck rest. Hate it. Absolutely hate it with a passion. Does high, does low. But I've always preferred using a pair of sponges. And I have an even favouriter method these days, and that's called dangling the headstock off the end of the bench. Probably limits the materials that you need to a bit of a cloth there. So yes, dangling it off the end there. I like that. Okay, so we'll have a look at neck straightness. Although I'm sure it'll be okay. Although I'm not sure it'll be okay, so I use a notched edge. You don't need to use a notched edge. You can hold the frets bottom and top, the string rather, at the bottom and the top, and have a look along there to, oh, I can see there's a bit of a gap there. Oh, that's quite a gap. So, neck straightness does want addressing. What else can you do? Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the best thing to use. So, usually, although I probably won't bother with this, the other things that I do, so do all your setups before you put new strings on. That's my advice. Because the string bit's pretty easy. I usually nip up the tuning machines with that. You don't need to use one of those, any old thing will do. Well, there's something that fits, obviously. The string winder. See, these little things, they're a £5 to your door, fits in your little electric screwdriver, and takes all that heartache out of winding your strings. And you can feel when it's done, it's pretty straightforward. I use these clippers, nice pair of old, so the 1970s CK clippers that were my dad's. Although, what is equally as good is a manual. This is a Planet Waves one. Manual string winder that has got an absolutely superb clipper, and with this clipper it's almost impossible to nip the actual string as well. We've all done it. Yeah, and I know that you know how to restring guitars, but you know, just from time to time I get them in where the string is wrapped around the wrong side of the capstan, so it won't follow the normal line of travel. What else do we want to talk about? I think that's it really, pretty much. You know, if you do have problems with string height, you can perhaps always check your fret leveliness with a rocker. And you know, when you've got all the strings off, it's the perfect time to give your frets a bit of a polish up. Of course, this won't need it because the guitar is brand new, so it won't need a clean at all, but it's the best time to give the guitar clean. Polish your frets up with a bit of, you know, 1000 grit emery paper, and using a fretboard guard or two. There's a thinner one as well. And yeah, it's a nice thing to do, restringing. You get to know your instrument more intimately, and of course it gives you the opportunity to address any playing issues. Usually they feel so much sharper when you've done them. So, right, let's have a look at the neck straightness first. So, oh my word, let's have a look, see if you can see that. See if you can see the gap that you could get a bus through. So We'll have a quick look. Hello. See. Yes, so certainly the truss rod wants tightening up a little bit, and then we can reduce the size of that gap. That is probably what is causing the string height to be too high. Right, okay, let's find a tool. Okay, so nobody ever tells you these things. So we need to tighten up the truss rod and make the neck straighter. It's currently like this, and we want it with a much more shallow curve or much more shallow bow inside it. So to tighten it up, in goes your Allen key, and when you stood at the head of the guitar, you're going to turn it clockwise, and that will tighten it up. So righty tighty, lefty loosey, but that is from. And so I did do what's a truss rod look like some months ago, and so basically what you've got is you've got a big bolt head here. There's a massive bolt that runs the length of the neck, and there's a big nut at the bottom here, and you're just tightening up in the normal way that you would any nut and bolt, and that is quite loose, and I'm hoping feels like it's getting looser. Can't do, can it? Nope, it's nipping in now. Yeah, bit of resistance. That was not engaged, I would say. That was not engaged at all. So even with a brand new guitar, and usually Harley Bentons are pretty good. Now I feel a bit of resistance. Thank goodness. So let's see if it's made any difference. I mean, I know of course the tension is reduced slightly because I've slapped 2 strings off so that I could get into it. Let's have a look. Okay, that is nicely backbowed. So I need to let the tension off a little. But at least we know the truss rod works. Let's have a look. And it, not only does it work, but it works instantly. So that is still slightly back bowed, but what will it be like if I retension these strings? Because of course the string tension will make a difference to the neck straightness. As a buddy of mine has just recently found out with his bass, he's got a bass with a really skinny neck, and the band that he plays in plays a half step down, so as he's released the tension, his neck straightness has become, instead of being like this with the regular 440 tension on it, when you drop that tension, now his neck's gone either straight or slightly back bowed. So there you go, it makes a difference. Let's see. And our survey says still back bowed. Or at least very, very flat. But I'm quite close, I would say now. Mind you, I did turn it an awful lot. Let's have a look. Yeah, I would say that's flat. So about another half a turn perhaps, something like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hang that up That's okay. I'm going to hang it up just for a little while, half an hour or so, and let it sort itself out. Okay, so we've got a nice little gap in there now. Exactly what I want to see, just a sliver of light. But the action is still a little high. And our survey says that at the 12th fret, it's about 1.75. And we want that down to 1.25. Which should be fairly, mind you, it was about 2.5 before. So in here we've got two little screws, very much like an Epiphone, lock tone. So ideally you'd slack the strings off a little, and then of course we're going to turn to the right, which will drop the string height. There's no thumb wheels on this, so it's only height adjustable from the screws. Have a look. There we go. So that's, survey now says 1.25, which I'm absolutely thrilled with. So let's get some strings on it. And today's string choice will be Harley Benton's very own 9242s. I haven't found strings that are any better, so that's what's going on. Right, let's unstring first. Yeah, first of all, let's check for any choking or buzzing. And above the 12th, I like to give it a little bend. Oh, can you hear that? It's fine. Right, okay, so let us get these 10s off and pop the 9242s on. And what I do want to point out to you is that always detension your strings, whether you're using one of these or a manual one. And the reason that we detension them, rather than just crop them, I don't think that the wood will complain at all, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Or not much anyway. But what will complain, possibly, is the gears in your machine heads. If, of course, you're all under tension and you suddenly release that tension, then I would say that you certainly run the risk of damaging the gears. So it only takes a few seconds anyway, so detension first and then remove. Right, let's get them on. Yeah, as it turns out, I'm going to just give the frets a quick polish, because I noticed that when I was bending the strings that they made a bit of a scratchy sound. So, and there's nothing wrong with them, they're all level and what have you. Let's just make them a little bit smoother, and it'll just be a nicer job. And it's so easy once you've got the strings off. Right, I shall finish doing that. You can see what I'm doing. Okie dokie, so pretty straightforward really. Restringing, and it's got a stop tail and a tunematic style bridge, or more like your Epiphone tone lock, I suppose. So string goes in the aperture there, but it's what happens at the machine head end that's probably the most important. So you want to make sure that your aperture in the capstan, or hole if you prefer, is facing toward the nut, so it's in the correct direction of travel, that it's sat in the saddle, and then you pull it back. Get that tool ready. You pull it back about a fret and a quarter maybe, and hold it in place with your thumb. Oh, and turn it the right way, and wind it on. Make sure the string flops over so that the winds go toward the bottom, which will help it to stay inside the nut more readily. So you may have to contortion your fingers, especially more so with the thinner strings. That's okay. And perhaps with the thinner strings, rather than a fret and a quarter, probably a fret and a half, so that you get a few more winds on them. It'll help to keep them more stable. And so obviously when you've done it, crop it with whichever tool you're using. There's no more work to be done to the guitar, so I'm pretty confident that we can crop it and crack on. So it's just a case of rinse and repeat. I'll do one more. We're onto the A string now. And when I've done them, I'll come back to you and show you best practice for what to do next. So that's it in place. I'm pulling it back a fret and a bit. Make sure the end of the string goes over the wind so that it naturally winds down the capstan. I think it's doing quite nicely, and that is in place. So I shall carry on and do the rest, and then I'll show you what happens next. Okay, so we're all nice and neatly strung up with nines. I'm going to tell you, I do like the look of this guitar, all white with the gold hardware. It's very, very 70s glam rock looking, I think. Or even, what was that band called? The Welsh lot. Yeah, he had one of those, didn't he? So, anyway, what you want to do once you've restrung it is obviously give all of your strings a good old pull. I like to bend them as though I was playing them. And the ones that will stretch the most, see, are the wound strings. So yes, so that is restringing a guitar. Lots and lots of bending now required. My advice is to play it like you hate it for an hour or two and get those strings bent in, and then it won't go out of tune on you when you need it to not go out of tune on you. So with all of that said, I shall look forward very, very much to reviewing this soon, and yes, we'll give it a jolly good old workout and see how it does. Alright, thanks for tuning in, folks. I'll see you soon. Adios amigos. Ta-ra.